Really?
Hey, Duran, I just started recording. Wait, hold on. Fuck.
Oh.
And we are recording episode 420 on 420.
Nice, my buddy.
I don't care what anyone else says. This is an amazing achievement. Oh, hey,
You need
Duran's
to
friend.
leave now. You
Hey,
need to
Duran's
leave,
friend,
please.
rubbing
Thank
his
you.
rubbing his nipple. Thank you. Thank you. It's cool. We're kicked off YouTube anyway. It doesn't matter. I don't give a shit, dude. We can do whatever. You can start fucking a house cat. It doesn't matter.
Have you naked?
Hey, man. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't hate, man. I don't hate, man. The human body is beautiful. Don't be ashamed. It's I don't.
Oh my god. Ah, my
I don't give
bad.
a fuck, dude. I don't give a. I don't give a fuck. To everybody listening, Duran, first ever guest, and now we are doing episode 420 on 420. His roommate was just in the screen rubbing his nip, but that's cool. Hey, man.
He was rubbing his nipple.
Hey, man. Hey, man. Life's too short to pretend like we're not all freaks. All right. Let's keep this party going. That we are in my new apartment, in my new quote unquote studio, which is actually just my bedroom. And there's no sound suppression on the walls. There's none of those sound panels yet. I'm not going to have them to the end of May. So we have about another 30 days of echoey podcasts. So for everybody that doesn't like that, go fuck yourself and tune back in a month. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know what's more fitting for episode 420 on 420 than me waking up and nothing working. Laptop, black screen of death, couldn't connect to the internet. And I was just like,
Oh no.
I felt high. I was trying to fix everything. And I was like, this is what it feels like when you're too high and like you can't find your keys and they're in your pocket. I was like, why isn't it working? And I finally got it up and working about an hour ago, but that's not interesting. So I'm going to shut the fuck up with that. Duran, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. I got 2 more weeks of school. This is my last week of classes before finals. I've just been chilling, been trying to get shit done, trying to have a good time at the same time.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Nothing else other than that.
Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
man. Fuck yeah. Oh, and dude, I thought my laptop was broken and I found some channel. Of course, if you find a tech channel with an Indian guy, it's good. And I found some tech channel and he was like, do this, do that, do this. And my laptop started working again perfectly. But I went to the Apple store and online and it says Apple store is down. Come back later. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But so I was thinking, you know how Trump got to completely pull a 180? You know how Trump got banned from all social media for inciting violence, which, whatever. I don't think he was, but let's say he was inciting an insurrection at the Capitol. All right, sure. I get it. You got to ban him. Do you think they're going to ban Maxine Waters because she went out the other night breaking her own curfew, marching with BLM, saying we need to be more confrontational, saying we demand a guilty verdict from the Chauvin trial, and which is, I mean, what better way to show that we are a civilized people than taking to the streets and using violence to demand the outcome of a judicial case we want? Don't rely on the court system. Just demand you get what you want, or quote, be more confrontational. She said, if it's not a guilty verdict, don't leave the streets. Okay, whatever. I get it. Maybe it's maybe there are a lot of shootings of unarmed black men. Let's play the devil's advocate. Maybe you gotta get out there and fucking march or whatever. Hey, it's a wonderful country that we can do that. I get it. But about 2 hours after she said, be more confrontational, push back harder, there was a drive-by shooting at the nearby National Guard, and 2 National Guardsmen were injured from a drive-by shooting. Now, does that warrant the the deplatforming of Maxine Waters from all social media, demanding to be confrontational, and there's a drive-by shooting at the nearby National Guard, injuring 2 National Guardsmen, one of whom had to go to the hospital? What do you think? This isn't exactly the
Man,
420.
I mean,
This is
I haven't.
I think we have. Sorry, I
Yeah,
think
man. I thought you were gonna offer me a blunt or something. What the heck, Tommy?
I think we have like a couple
Uh,
second. I think we have a couple second delay between us. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's saying that the bandwidth is low for you.
yeah. No, well,
I
I don't
don't
have
know
my
if it's
internet
me or
set up
you.
yet. No, it's not you. It's me.
Oh, you don't have Ethernet?
No, I'm using. I'm tethered to a hotspot thing right now. Nothing's working in the new apartment. Just like it's held together with duct tape. But it's yeah, not exactly the 420 conversation. I mean, I wore my Snoop Loops hoodie. I wore my Snoop Loops
Oh
hoodie.
shoot.
Oh, go get your hoodie. Oh yeah, for everybody listening, Duran is now joining my cult, my growing harem of guests who have bought my merch. We've got Roger, we've got Dr. Gian, and we've got David O'Neill, and now we have Duran Duran with his Area 51 hoodie. Duran, don't tell the people what you think of it. Give them an honest feedback because they're never, of course I'm going to give my stuff an A plus feedback. So I mean, they're not really going to get it. Even though I believe my own hype, I think I do have the best merch. It's still they're getting it from me, the guy who's making money off of it. So they're not going to get you're never going to get 100% genuine uh, feedback on the merch. So how about you? And I have no idea whether or not Durant's going to give me a good or bad review, but what is your honest feedback of the product?
So the first thing I noticed about it is it's a very like snug sweatshirt. It's very comfortable in that way, and I really like it just for that aspect. Let alone the looks. I've been whoring that Area 51 hoodie around everywhere just because I think it's so fucking cool.
Thanks, man.
But I'm probably getting all sorts of weird looks. Like, who the fuck is this kid? Like, what
Good,
is he doing?
good,
Who is this
good,
kid?
good.
But you know what? Fuck those guys.
Fuck
That
those
hoodie
guys.
is one damn nice hoodie, so I'm gonna wear it.
Thanks, man.
But I mean, I love it, man. I really dig it, and I think it's impressive artwork as well.
Thanks, man. That's that's my biggest concern is just is do you like the design? Because I don't have a say in the actual like structure of the hoodie. Like that's the companies that makes it, Shopify. I don't have a say in that. So I'm glad that the hoodie, like I wear them, I like them, but I don't design. I design the designs. So you like, but the Area 51 design's good. It's dope.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's dope, man.
Good. That's all I can control. So that's all I'm
Like
concerned
I got
about.
a flying saucer on my titty when I wear it. Like, who
Fuck
doesn't
yeah,
want
dude.
that?
You got
Who doesn't
Bob.
want
Yeah, you got Bob Lazar, you got you got a fucking gray alien on there. You know,
it?
I think the hoodies may serve like a dual purpose. On top of keeping you snug and warm, what they also do is they are accelerants in that if you put it on, you can very quickly find out who is superficial and who is not. If people look at you and
Yeah.
they're like, "Why the fuck are you wearing a Bob Lazar hoodie?" Well, there you just cut to the core. Now you can excise that person from your life because if it's like what Dr. Seuss said: "Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." Meaning, you know, if someone's cool and they're your friend, they won't give a shit about how you dress or how you look. So maybe that's the secondary or perhaps tertiary effect of the hoodies is that you can excise shitty people from your life. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's whenever you come on, you were episode 1, I think you were like episode 60 and you were like episode 200 something. Whenever Duran comes on, we kind of do like a recap of like where the podcast has gone and where it's going. And the first time it was episode 1 with no views and no subscribers. The second time, I think like we read off the stats and we were at like 300. And the or this third time we were at maybe might have broken 1,000 subscribers. So now here we are, Duran and I, April 20th, 420, episode 420. Right now, aside from being in YouTube jail, we're at 5,185 subscribers on YouTube. So it's gone
Gee,
up
so you've
exponentially.
jumped 1,000 subscribers last time
Yeah.
we talked.
Yeah.
That's
And
really good.
thanks, man. I
Congrats.
think we're at 320,000 views on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute are much tinier. Rumble's at like 129 subscribers, BitChute's at like 50. But every time we talk, we kind of recap it. We see how it's going, and now we're talking, and the numbers are up. There's a merch store. It's actually making shit. Now I'm in my own apartment, paid for by the podcast, which to me is just mind-boggling. But we also kind of cover what's going on in the world. So the first time we talked, I think COVID was like the first time you and I talked. Episode 1, we talked about Hong Kong, and it was
Oh
before
yeah.
COVID was even in the news. And the second time we talked, COVID was in the news. And Duran and I, you
Mm.
can go back and find the episode. Duran and I were like, we were like, if we could go back in time to episode 1 and tell them about COVID, they wouldn't believe us. So what he and I did was we started, and you can go find this episode. We started joking. We're like, what's the next thing? Because one day we're going to look back at this episode 60, whatever it was, and there's going to be a new thing. What is it going to be? And we eventually hypothesized that a famous rapper was going to get killed, maybe like a Tupac or a Biggie. And that's not what happened. But that afternoon, George Floyd was killed. That afternoon, after our episode. So the next time we spoke, we looked back and we were like, okay, the thing that we were predicting were the riots. And we were like, what's the next big thing? We were like, are there going to be UFOs in 2020? And the UFOs never came, but there wasn't
Sadly.
but there wasn't
Sadly.
there was an insurrection at the US Capitol. So we were right. There was another big one. So now, here we are, April 20th, 2021. And I wonder what predictions we can make, for the podcast. I'd hope by my goals for this December, for December 12th, which will be the 2-year anniversary of the podcast, my hopes are that we break 10,000 subscribers. I think that could be really cool. In terms of social predictions, do we dare keep playing this game? Because I feel like you and I have manifested George Floyd
So
getting killed and a Capitol insurrection. So what? And I know I haven't stopped talking yet, Duran. I'm not being a very good host. I get excited. I get excited. What do you think's
that's all
coming
right.
What do you think's coming down the pipeline?
I think that Bitcoin mining and things like that are going to get even more extreme. If you're a hardware computer lover in any way, you know that there are certain components right now that are a bitch and a half to try to get.
Touchable.
Yeah, it's untouchable. Like I will have like a 30 series graphics card in my cart, and by the time I go click checkout, it's gone.
That's
Or by
insane.
the time I even click on the link, it's gone.
That's insane.
And I get instant notifications too. So it's just insane. So if you have if you're needing to upgrade hard drives, SSDs, NVMEs, I would do that right now because there's another coin in town and it's called Chia, and it's primarily being mined in China, but Chia is mined using hard drives and SSDs and stuff like that. So if you have hardware needs that you need to take care of, I would take care of that right now.
Well,
Like that's one prediction I have. The other prediction I have is that we're going to continue to see social interaction, and the reason I think that that will be true is I think that what's happened during the summer was very symbolic, and it was very symbolic towards what's happening politically in this country. And what's happening politically in my mind is that we're having fights between ideologies, which is never a good thing. Never ever a good thing. And so that's one of the things I've had in my back of my mind that I continually worry about, because the status of the president, he's not meant to be God in their society. He's not meant to have these powers. He's not meant to bring in socialized healthcare, for example. Like that's Congress's job. Like if we want that in the States, like we could do that, but it shouldn't come from the presidency. It
yeah.
should come from Congress. And there's a lot of problems when you do that and when you force the president to have a bigger role than what he needs. And it's almost like we're following the symbolism in that way
Mm,
because, the president's now a symbolic symbol.
sure.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why Trump had a lot of control over a lot of people, whether, they loved him or hated him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's my my best friend's birthday's in a month, and he's the biggest gamer I know. I've known
Oh,
him
really?
I've known him since I was 11. I mean, PC master race. He always shits on me because I'm a fucking casual who buys MacBooks, and he's got his like water cooled fucking rig that can solve cancer. And his birthday's coming up, and I don't know shit about building PCs. To me, it's like I buy an Apple every 4 years. But I was like, last night I was texting him. I was like, "Yo, what do you want for your birthday?" I was like, "You want some PC upgrades? Like, what can I?" And I don't know anything about PCs, so I was like, "I'm just gonna look up like a new graphics card," because he's always complaining about, and rightfully so, how Bitcoin mining has just ran it up through the roof. And so I looked up and I was like, "What are the newest graphic cards?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's my best friend. I'll spend a little money on him," thinking that it was going to be the
Yeah, you
equivalent of
got it. You got to take care of the people you love.
yeah, thinking that it was going to be the difference between, like, when you bring like a cheap bottle of vodka to a party or a friend's house for a weekend versus maybe it's their birthday, so maybe you get them something from a little higher up on the shelf, maybe a splurge, and you guys indulge.
Yeah, maybe some crowns, a
Yeah,
Jim Beam.
yeah. Just not top shelf, but as a broke, in your 20s. Well, I'm 30 now. You go up a little. So I was like, I'll look up something for my buddy. I was looking up last night, and I was like, this can't be right. And I was looking it up, and so I texted him back. I said, "Hey, scratch that. I'm not getting you any PC upgrades." And he started laughing. So I didn't know shit about it. Like RTX, whatever the new one is, they're like $2,500 on eBay. 3,500.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So,
I was like,
like,
holy shit.
I've been trying to get a hold of AMD's new lineup of graphics cards just because I have an AMD processor,
Mhm.
and there's something called Smart Access, which is just when you have an AMD processor and an AMD graphics card, you get better performance.
Okay,
And so, like, the MSRP for the card that I want was like $450.
sure.
If you enter Newegg Shuffle, which is like a lottery system to get a graphics card right now, it's like $800, $900.
Jesus fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Newegg. But if you go on Amazon, it's like $1,200.
The ones I was looking at on Amazon for like and mind you, I don't know shit about any of this, so excuse me if I'm butchering. Is it RTX? It's like 2080 or 3080 or
Yeah, so it's RTX 3060, 3070, 3080, 3090.
yeah, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna grab him a 3090. I was like, I'm gonna be his bro. Dude, I'm not even kidding you. It was $3,400 on Amazon.
Yeah,
So
it's disgusting.
I texted him back, and I was like, "Do you prefer whiskey?" I was like, "Sorry, dude. I thought I was gonna. If it was like a couple $100, I was gonna get him something. I've never got him a present before, but I was like, fuck it. But yeah, man, it's Duran. I thought you would enjoy this. So I'm in the new apartment, right? Super tiny, but I love it. I've been at home for 5 years. I absolutely love it, and I'm jacking up my internet. I'm gonna get some gigabit. I'm gonna splurge, but for my MacBook, which this thing over fucking heats. Just
uh,
I don't think this thing is meant to process like hour long 4K podcasts, which I do every single day. So
we'd have to design your computer one of these days
I
for
know.
your needs.
So it's on a laptop fan, which I forgot was on. It's on a laptop fan, and then
Mhm.
as I've gone through before, next to it is I have a huge box fan, and that's my cooling system. So as soon as I stop recording, I turn the box fan on high. I mean, this thing's so loud. I got to put in headphones just to listen to my audiobook. But right above the box fan is the air conditioning vent. So I ordered some HVAC tubing for like $10 on Amazon,
Oh,
and
oh my God.
I'm gonna bring the HVAC tubing directly down and like wire it to the back of the box fan. And then I'll be able to turn on the AC, and then I'll have an I'll have the world's only HVAC cooled MacBook. So MacBook HVAC. So that'll be that's that's the end of that story. I don't really have anywhere to go with that, but I thought it was funny. But dude, it's and again, to anyone listening to this, they're probably just rolling their eyes. They're bored out of their fucking minds, and I don't care. Go fuck yourself. But like, I always pay attention to like when the Zoom conversation's over, it has to transcode it, and it heats up then, and then it also heats up when I put it through iMovie. So I've got this little like thermometer, this like vacuum thermometer thing,
Yeah.
and I put it on one side of my MacBook with the box fan on the other side. And I can put it right in front of the box fan and it will read, 60 degrees. I'll crank up the AC. If I just put it, MacBook's a foot wide. If I put it on the other side of the MacBook and crank up the box fan, in that however quickly it takes for, the air to go across the laptop, maybe like a fifth of a second, it goes from 60 to 75 degrees in that 1 foot of distance. So I'm trying to play with fucking cooling down this laptop. But
How many cores do you have for your processor in that laptop?
I have no idea. I'll pull. Let's see about this Mac. Let's see, MacBook Pro 15-inch 2019 processor, 2.6 gigahertz, 6-core Intel Core i7, memory 16 gigs of 2400 MHz DDR4, graphics Intel UHD graphics 630 1536. I don't know what any of that means, but yeah, man, it's I don't think it's meant for what I do with it, but whatever, it's what I'm doing with it. But yeah, man, Duran, I think you would be proud of my 100 terabyte desktop setup right here off screen. Got 100 terabytes set up. But
Oh,
to circle back to what you were saying about ideologies battling, it might just be about a month ago. I had been doing it for several years where I would only download social media to where I would, or excuse me, since I started the podcast, I'd only download social media just to upload the links to the podcast. Maybe like Instagram or Facebook. Dwayne, you can hit your vape on camera, dude. I don't give a shit. You don't need to like hide.
oh, sure.
Oh, you keep like hiding while you can smoke on screen. I don't give a shit, dude.
Shh.
Shh. Okay. Are you not supposed to?
Shh.
What? Well, now fuck. Did I say something I wasn't supposed to?
It's all good, man. Don't worry about it. No, so I'm applying to med school this summer, so I figured that everything is going to be online available for them to see too. So
Well, you're allowed. There's nothing wrong with vaping. It's safer than smoking, right? And you don't
yeah,
need
it's like 95%
yeah,
safer.
you don't need to respond to that. Just you're vaping nicotine, just and leave it at that. Who cares? If you're applying to med school and they find a picture of you ripping a Marlboro Red, they're just like, yeah, this kid knows how to deal with stress. Like they don't give a shit,
Yeah,
dude.
probably.
Dude, listen, man. I got into med school. Despite having like a triple felony like purged from my record from being a sophomore in college when we broke into a neighboring frat house.
Oh my god! Holy
Listen, man.
shit!
I got in, all right. So, dude, I think they're more concerned. I mean, granted, I applied in 2013. I don't know how much shit's changed in 8 years. But when I applied, the only thing that was on my record is I got arrested for alcohol when I was 17. I had to do like 40 hours of community service and like, I was on probation, whatever. Did it all, got it expunged from my record. And when I applied to med school, they're like, hey, do you have a criminal record? And I said no, but then I was like, you know what? Even though I was 17, it was just for possession of beer. It was like it was as lightweight of a crime as possible. And even though it was expunged, I just figured I was like, I think I'd rather just like not say, no, I don't have something on the off chance that they can find that thing that was expunged because now I look like a liar. So
Yeah.
what I said was officially, no, I do not. But when I was 17, I did get arrested for I was stupid. I was 17 years old. I was drinking beer with my friend, and we got arrested for walking around his neighborhood with an open. We were stupid, and I was like, my parents killed me, and I was like, but it was expunged from my record. But I was like, that did happen. Like that was an event that happened in time and space. It doesn't matter if it was legally expunged. It's something that did occur.
Yeah.
And they just said thank you for your honesty, and I still got in. Now, granted, if I had said, it was expunged, but I did, rape and kill a baby deer, maybe they maybe they would think twice about letting me in.
Yeah, I think that's a whole different
That's
ballgame.
that's a whole different ballpark. But my point is I don't know, man, just be honest and just don't. I think they would probably favor more you telling them everything you've done rather than you lie about something, no matter how light it is. Just own up to it, because I think that's what they're looking for, is just who you are. Is because it looks bad on them. They don't want to give you a medical degree and then you go out and you become, you're some piece of shit. That looks bad on their school. But yeah, dude, you're fine smoking a vape. Listen, if you don't get into med school for smoking a vape, then I don't fucking know. Then that wasn't that you know, you know, I think they're being nice. I don't think that's the reason why you wouldn't get in. If
Yeah,
they
yeah.
tell you, hey, if I try to ask out Emma Watson and she says, sorry, Tommy, I just don't like your haircut, she's being nice. It's not my haircut. It's everything about me. She's just coming up with a quick excuse. Okay. So if med school doesn't let you in because you're vaping, there's more to it behind that. But and I think I've told you this, is I download Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Parler, Gab, GitHub. I download like 8 apps when I'm finished with the podcast.
Hmm.
Now that I don't have internet, I can't do that. But I downloaded it, maybe take like 2 minutes, download them all. And that's where I would post the thumbnail and the link
Yeah.
to the newest podcast. And once they were all posted, I would then delete them, because I found over the years, I would find myself mindlessly scrolling through Instagram or Reddit or Facebook. And it's a lot like boiling a frog, or it's a lot like slowly gaining weight. I wouldn't realize the negative effects until hindsight. I would be, next thing I realized, it'd be 1 a.m. and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I'm like, everyone has a better life than me. I live at home with my parents. What the fuck am I doing? Or I'd be on Reddit and I would be like, oh man, I'll be like, the deep state's taken over. The whole world is fucked. We're run by a bunch of Marxists. Or I'd be on Facebook and I'd be like, everyone's retarded. Like, why am I even on this earth? It'd be just, I'm on Twitter and I'm like, I'll be like, whoa, cool. No matter what it was, is I'd find myself scrolling and I don't want to say it would lull me into it, because that puts the blame on those apps. I like to own everything I do. So I would lull myself into, no matter what it was always a less than positive mindset, whether it was jealousy, whether it was anger, whether it was disdain or regret or anxiety. No matter what it wasn't a good mindset. And I don't know where it happened, but I think like a couple months ago, I didn't delete them off my phone one day. And I didn't realize it until like a week ago, that I was like, why am I just kind of always pissed off? And I was just like, oh, why am I scrolling through these? I was like, I thought I don't do this. It was literally kind of like waking up from getting blackout drunk. I was like, why am I scrolling through these? And I was like, I thought I delete these from my phone. I don't even know how it happened. But I finally went back a week ago and deleted them all. And I was like, no, there's a reason why I delete them. And because of that, the last week or so, I've been in a wildly more positive mindset, just removing those things from my life. I listen to audiobooks. I go for a walk. I go to the gym in the morning. I meditate. And it's just like, I'm focused on dieting. I'm focused on making the podcast better and finding more guests. And I'm going to bed earlier, because when you're not laying in bed scrolling mindlessly through a trillion Instagram posts, you start to just get naturally tired when there's nothing to do, and I just fall asleep.
Mm.
And I don't really know where I'm. There's a point to this whole rant. Because of that, I have found that I'm not really paying attention as much to politics and differing ideologies. Whereas I feel like for most of 2021,
Well,
go on.
no, continue.
For most of 2021, I've I've found myself really caught up with they fucking stole the election, Biden, Trump. It's back and forth. It's communist China. No, it's fucking the deep state. It's been like tearing my mind apart. And I don't think it's good to stick your head in the sand and pretend that none of it's happening. But at the same time, when I unplug for a week, when you just said earlier, I think these ideologies are at war, part of my mind was like, wait, what's going on? Like, has something happened in the news? Like, because I have removed that daily feed of
Mm.
shit into my mind. And obviously, I know we're at this weird divisive point in our history, but just removing that importation of news of people telling me how bad it is, and instead existing in my own immediate world of leaving the apartment complex and walking to the gym, I've not once have I seen any arguments. I haven't seen a MAGA hat or a Biden hat. It's like, where is this all happening? Because I'm walking around here and there's men and women, there's black guys and white guys and Asian guys, there's kids, there's older people, there's no one's at each other's throats. And you know i'm I'm constantly torn. Is it is it unethical to tune out all politics? Because for me personally, I am in a better state of mind when I don't pay attention to it, but by not paying attention to politics, that's how terrible things can happen. Or is it more ethical to stay invested in the political arena, the cost being your own mental health? And I know I've only let you say like 10 words this whole podcast. So, what are your thoughts, Duran?
Well, first, I don't necessarily think that it's you taking yourself out of the arena. I think that it's something much deeper, much broader than that. I think that, when you take care of yourself, you do more for society than you do to ideology. You're a more beneficial because you're a better you. You're a more beneficial citizen to society.
Okay.
And so I think that you, a lot of those positive feelings and those reinforcements you get is essentially from that. And I think that you've kind of realized that, hey, the only way that I could really help out and change society is if I'm a better self. And so I think that that has more to do with that than, rather than just taking yourself broadly out of political arena, because you want to be aware of what's going on. You want to be able to look down a pipe and see if there's something coming that you need to dodge, like if there's an upcoming financial crisis, for example. Like, you need to be able to have your ducks in a row. But, at the same time, I think you do better when you don't subscribe to the hate that's going on. And there's a lot of hate these days, and frankly, in my mind, it's pretty fucking disgusting. It's
Yeah.
just not something that you like to see, and it makes me sad. It really does. It tears a hole in my heart, Tommy, when I see people that otherwise agree, on 99% of things, but disagree on that 1%. And then the leading ideologies tell them, well, you have to hate that person because if they don't agree with you on that, then that means they're a bad person,
Yeah.
because, that's how ideologues work. They use their ideology to justify their actions or their
Yeah.
thoughts. And so I just think that, going back to my first point, I just think that you're just taking care of yourself, and as a result, you're a better person for society. And I think, a lot of that, I hear when you become a doctor, one of the things that they teach you in med school is how to help teach other people to help themselves. And, that's one aspect of med school I'm very excited about because, I've met a lot of people who have unjust suffering in their life. And the reason they have that unjust suffering is because they're not taking care of themselves. They're not being honest with themselves or whatever the case might be. Maybe they're having a little bit too much to drink every night, or smoke or, whatever it may be. But, it's just one of the things that I've noticed is, when you are able to take care of yourself, like obviously you are, you're having a podcast going, you're working on your dream, man, and you're going to the gym. You're taking care of your mental health, you're taking care of your physical health, and part of taking care of your mental health is those goals. Like, we're very, and we've talked about this before, when we're hunting the mammoth and then we see that cougar out in the distance, it's it's not the goals that give you the satisfaction. It's working on the goals
Yeah.
that gives you that
Hmm.
dopamine. And so I think that, you may have not realized that, but in my mind, I think that you've realized that a long time ago. But subconsciously at least.
I think I would agree. It's yeah, there's a lot of similarities to what you just said with what Ram Dass would always say. He would say the single most beneficial thing you can do for this world, economically, physically, sexually, spiritually, socially, financially, he would say the single best thing you can do is to stay in the present moment and work on yourself. Get your sleep, stay hydrated, meditate, and stay centered. And he's like, it's not selfish. Work on yourself because the better you are as a person, now when you go out and maybe you interact with someone that's just, maybe they're having a terrible day and they're lashing out, you are in a position to be able to absorb that lashing out. Not, it's not that you stand there and you're a punching bag, but if someone just, if you accidentally cut them off or something and they're like, dude, get the fuck out of my way, instead of turning around and being like, go fuck yourself, you just, what Ram Dass would say is the more in the moment you can stay, you become like a well that has no bottom. And the person next to you, when they lash out, what they're doing is they're throwing a rock down the well, but they never hear a splash, they never hear a crash. And it's not that you are throwing their rock back. It's not that you're taking their rock and it's hitting you, but you're internalizing it. You just let it go through you. And he's like, they don't know what to do, so maybe they throw another rock down the well and there's just no splash. You don't tell them, you can't make a splash. There's no splash. And that's one thing I try to remind myself of as I'm like, be the most kind of calm, cool, collected, evolved person that you can be, and the rest will follow, right? It's it's
Yeah.
I think it's what Duncan Trussell says. He's like, I used to not like recycle. He's like, I'd always look at corporations and be like, those big multinational corporations, they need to be recycling. But he was like, at the end of the day, he's like, if I can't bring myself to just, put aside my Coke bottles and bring them out to the recycling once a week instead of throwing them in the trash, he's like, how can I hold anyone else to that standard? And it's like, he's like, the mind is egomaniacal. The mind wants to stop world hunger. And it's like, no, first clean your apartment. And then, if you can, help your neighbor move in. It's like, just control your immediate world. And I think you're 100% correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that those values, and who is it? It's like a political icon that talks a lot about this stuff because, it's kind of linked to, how we evolve socially and our social hierarchies or that metaphysical world that we all just so happen to live in. that's made by culture, but in reality, we co-evolve with it, and so it's also in our brains. What's it?
Is he
Oh yeah,
alive?
yeah, he's alive. It's Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a I made one of my hoodies I made actually has one of his lectures on it.
really.
Yeah,
Which
it's
one is that?
Akira the Dawn.
Yeah. Oh, like the meaning wave one.
Yeah, so I made one with waves. I actually wore it this morning to the gym, and it has one of his. Hold on, I'll go fucking grab it. Stay right here, Duran. Duran, I need you to monologue with
Or
me. I need you to monologue.
I'm not going anywhere, man.
Monologue, you son of a bitch.
uh, yeah, but I think that 90% of what that guy says is empirical, and most of the time, he's not trying to have some political argument. I think that he's trying to talk about stuff that interests him, and I think that a lot of what he says gets misrepresented, especially by that of ideological groups that represent the hard left or the hard right. And so that's a very difficult position to be, because both those groups are horrible people, and they'll say whatever they want. Those groups also, they never learned from history. They never they never really tried to be good with their actions. And something I see with Jordan is he's trying to be a good person, and you can't say that he's not trying. And you can tell he's trying his hardest, and that's the crazy thing. And so whenever I hear people talk, oh, he's a alt-right white fascist or whatever, I just can't take him seriously. I really can't. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, it's
Is that one called Wave? Or
yeah, it's Akira the Dawn, the Wave Lord, and
mm,
yeah, it's got one of his lectures on it, and I think his lecture is titled "What Would You Be Like?" And obviously Akira the Dawn turns them into beautiful or awesome songs. But I made that one like 2 years ago. Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah. So yes, I know who he is. But yeah, it's yeah, it's I was describing this yesterday. Have you ever read The Alchemist?
is that's some manga, right?
Hmm?
Is that manga? Are you talking about anime?
No. The Alchemist. It's a
I think I'm just nerding out, man. I haven't read that Alchemist, and I've read the manga.
it's The Alchemist is it's some like it's some coming of age story. It's by Paulo Coelho, Coehlo. It's one of the most like widely selling books of all time, and he wrote it, and it's about like a kid in like the 1500s or something. I think he's somewhere in the Middle East. But basically, this kid he's like a farmer. He's a shepherd. He's like 16, and he attends to his flock. And there's like an old church. I think he's in Spain somewhere. Actually, there's like an old church, and like the roof is caved in. And every night he goes and sleeps, kind of near like the altar. It's just this old ancient church, and his sheep are in there with him. And he looks up at the stars, and every night he has a dream of like moving rock and finding gold. And in one of his dreams he sees the pyramids, so he's like, I gotta go to the pyramids. And it's this whole there's all these lessons about how his dad gives him his blessing, and he goes out and goes to like wherever the nearby city is, and he gets like robbed, and he sells his sheep, and it's this whole he's growing up, and it's got all these life lessons, and it's one of my favorite books. It's like a one day read. And he keeps searching. He's gone for years, and he keeps searching for gold. And he's like, I lost all my sheep, but he's like, at least I left my town. Like no one ever leaves their hometown. He's like, they grow up and they die there. And he's like, at least I got to see like a river. I got to see like a city. I got to see a sailboat. And He's like, so no matter what, at least I got to go on this adventure. And he finally gets to the pyramids, and he gets mugged. He gets the shit beat out of him. They like almost kill him, and he's sitting there like bloodied, and they like take what little money he has, and they're like, why did you even come here? It's like a white guy. It's like, you stupid, like, you stupid white guy. And mind you, the book takes place in like the 1500s. And
Yeah.
he's like bleeding out of his mouth, and he's like laying there. And one of the guys is like, why the fuck did you even come? He's like, don't you know how dangerous it is here? He's like, you're lucky we don't kill you. And he's like, he musters the word. I might be butchering it, but he like musters the words. He's like, I saw the pyramids in my dream, and that there would be a great treasure here. And the guy starts laughing, and he goes, I had one of those dreams once. And he's like, I've never left Egypt. He goes, I had a dream that, there was a broken down church in Spain, and underneath the altar was a bunch of hidden gold. And he goes, and then I grew up and I realized it was just a dream. And the kid, like, he's like, oh, holy shit. And so he like gets his stuff, and he makes the trek back to like Spain. Takes him like 2 years. He goes back, like digs up the altar, and sure enough, there's a bunch of old Spanish treasure. And he like, now he's just set for life. He buys back his sheep. He finds his wife happily ever after. But the whole thing is that he had, he had it. He had it all along, but the only way he could discover it was by abandoning it and leaving his comfort zone. And I say all that to say, when I was pre-med, much like yourself, when I was pre-med, all I did was study. I woke up every morning, I lifted weights, took a cold shower, I'd meditate, and I would just study all day. And that's all I did. And I would just get 4.0s. I would bust the curve. I would make people fail out of classes. I just was a machine. And that's all I did for 4 years. I'd occasionally drink, but as much as I was terrified about not getting into medical school, and that's why I studied so hard, I also just loved the pursuit. But I never realized that I loved the pursuit. I thought I just wanted to get into medical school. And when I finally did get in after 4 years, I felt so weird and empty. And that's when I took shrooms. That's when I decided not to go to medical school. A month after that is when I lost my brother to suicide. And, the rest is history. I went on this long downward spiral of kind of doing all the drugs I never did, trying to have like meaningless hookups, and I kind of just did everything that I thought is where happiness existed. Like if you found out you had 6 months to live, what would you do? Oh, I'd just fuck whores and do drugs, and I'd eat food. Well, I got really fat. I stopped working out. All I did was eat McDonald's. I didn't go to the gym. I just smoked pot and played video games and jerked off all day, which seems like, sure, that's just heaven, right? But the reality is no, that was the most miserable I've ever been in my life, was when I indulged in every pleasure. And it wasn't until starting up the podcast in December 2019 that I realized in order to do a podcast, I had to be well rested. I couldn't be tired and cranky. I get anxious when I don't have enough sleep. So I had to be well rested. And I can see all this in hindsight. This wasn't premeditated. I also realized that I had to work out beforehand, even if it was just a short walk. I had to sort of, get the blood flowing, get my brain moving. I had to I couldn't look greasy. I had to shower and shave. I couldn't wear like the same clothes, because whereas normally I wouldn't have a problem with just wearing the same stinky clothes day after day, I was like, well, shit, now there's video evidence of me not like practicing hygiene. So I was like, fuck, so I'd have to change my shirt every day. And I was like, well, if I'm going to change my shirt, I might as well change all my clothes. And I was like, I can't have my teeth getting more yellow. So I was like, got to make sure I brush them like extra hard. And slowly as the podcast went on, I realized that I had to be able to fill the dead air if the conversation lulled. And the only way to do that and to be interesting was to constantly have things to talk about, which meant that in all of my free time, I had to be taking in audiobooks. All these things were happening, and it's not until hindsight that I can see that they were happening. As they were happening, I didn't realize it. But looking back, I can see, oh, I was slowly developing this like structure in my life again. And the goal was to get to 100 subscribers, and then to 500, and then to 1,000, and then to start making money, and then to move out, get out of my parents' house. And now here we are, 420 episodes. I've been doing the podcast for about 16 months and 8 days. And I've done endless amounts of work. I've listened to endless audiobooks. I've had on endless guests. But what I've finally realized, probably in the last 2 to 3 months, is that, like The Alchemist, I realized that like happiness wasn't smoking pot all day and drinking every night and jerking off and texting girls. Happiness was just having this distant goal to become the next Joe Rogan and to dedicate every waking hour to it every single day. And that is bliss. And every day I wake up, I hop out of bed, I turn on my audiobook for the next guest I'm having on, go to the gym, come back. I've been in my own apartment for 3 days now, but like come back, cold shower, meditate, dieting, weighing myself every day, trying to always, update the podcast, whether it's some ghetto shit like stringing an HVAC tubing down to my laptop or whatever, it's, or upgrading internet or whatever. It's always just working. And I've found that, yes, I would love to sign that $100 million contract just to know that I'm set, right? And I can take care of my loved ones. But, prior to that, there is a bliss in just having something to get lost in every day. It's a video game that I can never beat. I can just work on it every day. And every day I get another episode under the belt. I get another subscriber. I get another view. And I just try to make it better than the day before. And there's this whole, I guess, similarity to The Alchemist in that I had to go out and kind of explore everything else in life before I could realize that, like, oh, I had it right initially. Choose a goal on the horizon and just dedicate yourself to it. And granted, that's what's good for me. I don't know what's good for you. I don't know what's good for anyone else. And
Well, I've definitely noticed the same thing in my life. I started college and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pre-pharmacy, and then it was like, okay, well, that doesn't really interest me because I don't really like the idea of standing around and talking to insurance companies all day. Um, and so they said, okay, let's do pre-med. And I was like, nah, grad school, let's go grad school. And then after doing a bunch of research, and I love learning, by the way, there's a bunch of cool shit in biology that I nerd out about, especially that with viruses. And so, but anyways, I went and I was like, okay, I was still kind of on the fence, and I was like, okay, let's go do job shadowing for medicine. And I job shadowed this guy, and so, half the time he was just your family doc in the box. But the other half of the time he was an addiction specialist. And so I got to see like the front lines of the opioid epidemic. And I got to understand it at a more humane level, I'd say. And I say humane as in emotional, almost like a very realistic, you feel what they're feeling because you're in the room with people who are struggling through that. And I thought, I was gonna meet, just horrible people, and they're dope addicts, and they're just these horrible people because
yeah,
they're dope addicts. And it was a complete opposite. I met some people that were probably a lot better than some other people I know. And I was kind of just like, holy shit, there's a stigma that we have in society about, people who are addicted to drugs. Is it really their choice? Is that how we should define it? I don't think that we should define it that way. I think that people should be able to get help. Like if you're a nurse in Idaho, for example, and you're addicted to opioids, you can lose your license by going and getting help. I I mean, to me, that just seems like you're digging those people a deeper pit. You're making it harder for them to recover and be beneficial to society. And so I think that, and that ultimately, those feelings and, just the way that, because the family practice stuff was awesome too. He, he was a great guy, really social, really good about helping me understand, what's going on, in medicine and, what his job was. And, showed me the paperwork he'd have to do afterwards, and, all that jazz. But, when I'd get home, my mom's like, you just have a glow on you. And, I would not shut the fuck up about job shadowing. Like, I loved it so much. And I was, reflecting back, these past couple of weeks, I've been thinking about, so I got to write my personal statement, and then
Mm-hmm.
I got to go do an interview on that this week because, for the committee letter. But, for me, it's exactly that, that alchemist story. I had to venture around, and then finally I came back to it, and I was like, holy shit, yeah, I was right all along. Eighth grade Doran
Yeah.
knew from a matter of fact that's what he wanted to do, but I didn't know it. Like, I didn't have the evidence for it. It's almost like this subconscious thing that's there, that's telling you, but you don't recognize it. You don't really feel like you have a real good reason, and then you get put into that spot. And for me, it was job shadowing, and you're like, oh yeah, I love it. And so I don't think that anyone should be doing anything in life that they wouldn't want to be telling their mother about. Well, not only telling, but bragging and
Yeah.
not shutting up about it, because if you don't love it that much, then what the hell's the point?
Yeah.
But for me, that's my story, as a relation to what you just said about
Yeah.
having to go around and look for a while.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely experienced that myself, and I think, in general, I think that's something that people go through.
Yeah, it's like you can start off doing something that in the end, yeah, you find is what, you were initially right. Eighth grade Doran, or pre-med Tommy. But it's almost like you don't know it's right. It's like it feels good and you like it, but you're almost like, can it get
Well,
better? Is there other stuff? And it's
it's like what Ram Dass said. It's more wisdom than it is knowledge.
yeah, yeah,
And to me, that just blows my mind.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I got 5 minutes, and I gotta go
yeah,
get ready because
you're
I
good.
gotta
You're
I
good.
gotta do like a presentation later on this book I read and
Dude, you're
a
good.
bunch of other stuff.
You're
But
good. Well, yeah, we'll wrap it up. But yeah, it's like it's not until you can. Have you ever been playing a game and you're like, I think I want to, sometimes I'll be playing Just Cause and I'll be like, fuck this. I want to play Ace Combat, and I'll put in Ace
mm,
Combat and I'll play 5 minutes and I'll be like, I don't want to play Ace Combat. I want to play Hitman. And I'll start playing Hitman. I'll be like, I don't fucking want to play Hitman. Maybe I want to speed run Grand Theft Auto. And I'll go back to Grand and I'll go to, and I'll be like, I don't want to play Grand Theft Auto. And I keep jumping around. And then I go back to Just Cause and I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is
yeah.
it. Yeah, you get the Grand Theft Auto and you're like, wait, I want a grappling hook and a wingsuit, and you're like, Just Cause, and you go back to it, and it's like, oh, right. It's not until you circle all the way. If 10 years ago you told me that at age 30 I would be in a one-room apartment by myself, I would have said, what did I do wrong? That's so depressing. Whereas now, I mean, this is my castle. Like, this is, I would argue I'm probably as happy or happier than Warren Buffett. Truly. Dude, I wake up, I listen to an audiobook that I like, I do a podcast, or I go to the gym, I work out, I meditate, shower, I do a podcast. After this, I immediately jump back to the audiobook. I'm having on an author named David Arkin later this week who wrote a book, The General Has No Clothes. It's all about the war state. It's awesome. I love it. I'm on my third listen through. I mute video games and I play video games while I listen to audiobooks on 1.5 speed. I wait for the podcast to finish processing. I upload it. I offload it to some hard drives, clean the computer, run like a memory cache cleaner, get it all ready for the next day. I put out my workout clothes for tomorrow. I put out the clothes that I'm going to wear on the podcast. Put those in the bathroom so I can just get out of the shower and put them on. put out my meds for the next day, and I kind of prep the whole podcast area, get all the cords ready,
Mm.
make the invitation for the Zoom, get the webcam, and then I turn it all off and I go to bed. And I wake up the next day and I do it all again. And I feel like I'm in Inception. Like I went to the dream within the dream within the dream within the dream, and they're like, how long were you there? And he was like, something like 50 years. And it was just him and his partner just building this whole world. I feel like that's where I am. I'm just building my own little world. And there's anxiety because I don't have like a lot of money and I'm not like set. I'm not insulated from the world.
Mm.
But other than that, I would say maybe second to like Post Malone. I think I'm probably one of the most content people in the world. I would truly, for the first time in my whole life, I can say that. I would argue that I'm one of the most content people on this planet. No hyperbole. I truly mean that. It's there are still wants and needs and depressions and anxieties and regrets and but all things considered, when I meditate and I center myself, comparison is the thief of joy. And I realized what my life is. This is my job. I'm at work right now. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm in like the interior zone of Inception and I'm just building my own little world.
Yeah, I mean, you built a pretty good foundation. I mean, you're like I said earlier, you're taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and socially. You're very much being, responsible to yourself to a point where you have a reasonable goal. It's not an easy goal, but it's reasonable. It's within grasp. And and as a result, that gives you a good foundation where you can withstand, the bouts of depression or
Yeah.
anxiety or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And I'm not trying to talk down depression, anxiety, that kind of
Sure.
thing, because
Sure.
there's a lot of serious disorders with that, and a lot of people like that need help. I've been around people that were on those ends of the spectrums, and you know that's just different for them. That's mental. That's a mental disease, but
Yeah.
for the normal person, you're going to have bouts of depression, anxiety, where you're not happy, and that's okay. That's life, but you got to make sure you have a foundation like Tommy's talking about, you know,
Fuck yeah. Well, Dorn, I'll wrap this up. I know you got to go. Episode 420 on 420,
on 420. That's
which
important.
which for everyone I didn't realize was kind of lining up until like a month ago, because I would just get notifications and I wasn't even seeing who the user was, but I now know it's you. You were just counting down episodes, and I was like, who the fuck? I thought you were a bot, and it would be like 35. The next day it would be like 34. And a week later it'd be like 27. And I'll be like, what the fuck is he counting down to? And I realized it was Doran, and I realized he was counting down to 420. And I was just like, I kind of laughed, and so I texted you. I was like, do you want to be like guest number? You want to be guest 420? And you were like, yeah, I think I'm free that day. And in my mind, I was like, what do you mean that day? How does he know what day I'm doing 420? And I realized that you were talking about this date, 420.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh my God, episode 420 is going to be on 420. And I was like, yo, you want to do the episode? And he was like, I would be honored. And I was like, fuck yeah. So I had a bunch of people asking me, they're like, yo, can I be guest 420? I was like, it's taken. It's taken. So, fuck yeah. And, of course,
I appreciate it. I am very honored.
hey man, you're guest number one. It's whatever I can do for you. It's Dorn, I'll let you go, man. I know you got to go.
All right.
I love you, brother. Thanks for
Love
coming
you,
on.
dude. Take
And
care, man.
stay safe, everybody, and take care of yourself before anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Later,
important.
dog.